Get ready. Out There Winning podcast starts in 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Be sure to like and subscribe. There's still time to share with your friends. We will be live in 3 minutes. Minutes. Like, subscribe, and share. Be sure to comment for live answers during the podcast. We will see you in studio in 30 seconds. And now for the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast Out There Winning with James and Akeem.
Hey, welcome to the show. If you hadn't had an opportunity to go ahead and press that like button, you could also follow us on YouTube. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and type those in now.
We're here today with Adam Martin. He is an industry leader of design in the sports industry. Adam, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Adam.
Hey, what's up, guys? Appreciate y'all having me in here. I've known both of y'all for a super long time. And James, I just want to say, as someone that did a podcast for about 8 years, I really appreciate those voice inflections you got going on, man. That's good stuff. You can tell you've been practicing a little bit.
Definitely been practicing. Man, yeah. Adam, if you could you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, we're back. Had some technical difficulty. Adam, go ahead.
Apologize.
Yeah. All right, so where did it start, right? So I'm born and raised right here in Mount Sterling. Went to Montgomery County High School. Grew up with both of you guys. Ran track. Played basketball with Akeem over here. And his dad was one of my coaches. Yeah. Mr. James Scott, one of the legends. Definitely love that dude and miss him for sure. So, after school, went to Eastern Kentucky University and majored in graphic design, and graduated from there, and really kind of stumbled into the sports industry as a graphic designer at a company that doesn't exist anymore, but some older listeners may remember a company called Host Communications. It was a sports marketing company founded by this guy, Jim Host. And basically, that's what kind of like got me that kickstart in the sports industry. And I've kind of just stuck around now for going on almost 20 years.
And you've got to work on some really cool projects coming up. I remember with, I think it was with Host, you got to do like some sports programs, kind of just get into those types of things. Tell us about, the types of work you did with Host.
Yeah, so it was a lot of print-based projects. So back in the day, they don't have these things anymore for these young bucks. They used to have these things called game programs, right? When you would go to a game, you was with your dad or whatever, and they would buy you this souvenir game program. And within that, you would have like the statistics and the rosters and all these things. All this stuff is like digital now, but there was some design to that. You had to actually lay out the game programs, but also like, do like color corrections on the photography. Actually, sometimes I didn't shoot the photography, but sometimes be with a school when you're like taking photos for like a game cover. I got to go to the University of Michigan, and we were shooting their game programs, and so I was up there and got to tour the school. Just the pageantry of college athletics. It's crazy, right? Like being able to go on a campus and you kind of just feel it. You feel the energy. I was in the big house, and we actually shot Chad Henne, who is a QB that just retired like 2 years ago. He came in the Chiefs game back when Patrick got hurt and kind of finished him out. So that was crazy to see that he was still playing after all them years.
Right.
But yeah, so there was a lot of cool stuff I got to work on. We also did like the NCAA game program. So like the final, actually all championships. So like all NCAA championships, their media guides, which are these things get passed out to the media so they can like, you always hear these guys before the color commentators and the announcers. How do they know so much about these players, right? Because every school sends out media guides and you can actually see like, okay, so-and-so's parents were both D1 basketball players and all that stuff. It's not like random. It's like very calculated and printed in these guides. But yeah, that's and then I also worked on so I got to work on like the Final Four game programs when I was there, and some of that included actually going to Louisville and spending like an all-nighter doing what's called press checks, which is like checking to make sure that things are printing properly so that you don't have like these massive mistakes. I actually did have a super big mistake at one point in time. I was working on Florida State's game programs, and I got their gold color wrong, and it printed, and it was like a super massive mistake. They had to reprint it and everything. It was like It was like an expensive, very, very big deal. But, you know, you live and you learn. Fortunately, other people had made mistakes as well. That's just probably not one that big.
Yeah. Man, if you could talk a little bit about that, you know, because a lot of people say, well, you know, they either get to, you know, design on the computers, do some photoshopping and do all these other things. But, like, talk about the adversity in the mistake process and how you may double check or triple check now.
Yeah. So that is, I think probably every graphic designer has some kind of story where they messed something up for a client. You either spelled something wrong or whatever. And so I think that like proofreading is obviously a big part of the process, but I think you become more careful as you get older and you become a little bit more of a professional and you're not like rushing through things. But the problem is the sports industry is a very fast paced industry. Right. So stuff's coming out all the time, super quick. Things are changing. Somebody got traded, somebody's transferring, you know, whatever, new coach, like it's just constant. That's why ESPN and places like that exist 24 hours because it truly is like a 24-hour news cycle in the sports industry. So,
can you, when you're talking about like the NCAA, what other, I don't know if you could say or not, but what programs, maybe here in Kentucky that you worked with, colleges or universities that you've actually worked with some of your designs? Yeah,
so I've worked with a lot of clients over 20 years. Sometimes I even forget about people that I've worked with.
Sure.
But as far as like locally, some of the bigger, you know, or I guess like more sort of quote unquote special ones for me would be like I've done stuff for the University of Kentucky, but that was like back during the host days or maybe sometimes I might do something for a different aspect of the university. But for about 8 years, I did all of EKU's stuff. So that was a special one to me because that was where I went to school. I eventually moved on, and what happened was, when I started doing this stuff, you didn't have a whole lot of in-house creatives. And that's become a big thing over the last 10, 15 years is people are like, we want in-house social media people, we want in-house photographers, in-house designers, because again, it's like a constant cycle. And, you know, there's football teams. I got friends that like, you know, I have friends that were like some of the first ever creative directors in college football, right? Like they literally travel with the team. Their boss is the coach. And their whole job is just to be a designer and make creative content about the team. And that's for recruiting purposes, right? Because the recruits want to see all this cool stuff. And I mean, everybody's a content company now, right? You're just constantly posting stuff and like trying to get people engaging with your brand. And so that was something that blew up over the last like 10, 15 years. But EKU was a special one to me. A few years back, I actually did the Transy stuff, like the current bat that they have.
Yeah. So if y'all don't know who created the bat, you're looking at him right now.
Yeah. So my company did that. I actually I have a very trusted colleague that I work with on a lot of stuff too. Sometimes I'll bring him in where like we just have two different styles. So it's like if I want to present more than one concept, you know, I've got my way of doing things, and then maybe like I just want to throw in a little something extra so that there's a little bit of choice. And so that actually ended up being like a mix of mine and his. Like he had sent in, you know, I had packaged his stuff up with mine, and I've worked with him for a long time as a contractor, so he's like under my business, you know, as far as like legally safe with like the contracts and stuff. But you know, in that one, it was, you just kind of go through like an iteration process. For that particular logo, there were a lot of people involved in that. Like, I mean, it had to go through like approvals from like the board of regents and like all these coaches. And I remember I sat down and did all this research with the coaches, and I sort of brought up this idea that, hey, what about this, you know, we talked about this bat, right? And so like if we could find a story to tie it in, because I'd had friends that have, you know, either played ball at Transy or whatever, and they go to like California and people are like, man, where'd you get that shirt? Like, I'll buy that shirt off your back, right? Like, I want that Transylvania basketball shirt. Like, that's cool, you know? And so it was really just a little bit of like working with their marketing department and kind of like getting them to buy in and on like the idea of like actually pursuing that. So it's not just like some meme thing. There were some people in the beginning that weren't super happy with it because they were just like traditionalists and wanted the old like Daniel Boone pioneer or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I think now it's like pretty popular, man. Like people, cool. And actually the best part about that is, so Jimmy Dykes came in to do the commentary for a UK basketball game when they were playing Transy, and Coach Lane gave him a hat. And so he comes on, he's like, look at this hat. This is the best hat in college basketball. So I screen recorded that and sent that to the marketing director because I know that the marketing staff went through a lot of pushback on a lot of different things. And it was cool to see like almost like an affirmation on ESPN, right. SEC Network, which is basically ESPN, but publicly from someone like that. So that was cool.
So talk about after creating this and now seeing your that creation. I'm going to use the Transylvania, the women's basketball team winning the national championship with that logo.
I actually like screen captured almost everything I could possibly screen capture from that because like it is it's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. Your work is on the screen at the NCAA national championship, right? And then they win it, and it's super cool. I'm super blessed to be able to do that, but like you do get kind of numb to it after a while. Like I remember early on, like I'd done when you're doing those game programs and you're walking around at a football game and then you see like your work thrown in the trash.
Yeah, right.
It's like like people don't care that don't care, but it is like it's a cool like thing. I mean but you do get numb to it after a while. But I still try to like let me wrap my head around the fact that like something big like that just doesn't happen, right? The national championship stuff. So that was cool.
Talk a little bit about maybe the other client that you may have had.
Yeah. So, kind of going back to the whole career thing, like I went out to Host Communications. I worked there for roughly a year and a half, something like that. And I was young, and my now wife, Emily, who you both know, we were dating and weren't like engaged or anything like that. So I was like, I'm going to jump out, start my own business. I don't have any kids, anything to like, any crazy expenses that are just like, oh, never going to make me do it. So I jumped out, kind of went full-time freelance, and really like it wasn't intentional that I was going to stay in sports, but that was just where all my contacts were. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like my first gig out of school was at a sports company. So the only people that I knew in the professional world were people that worked in sports. So I kind of stayed there, and I really kind of wanted to get out of it and go do just like general corporate design work or whatever. Because at the time, sports design wasn't as big as what it is now. Like now there's kids that grow up and they want to be a sports designer. It's like 15-year-olds probably making stuff on their phones that are like, yeah, my dream is to go work for Kentucky football and do this. Well, that didn't exist when I was coming up, right? Like either agencies were doing it, or you might like very rarely. Like UK was one of the only schools that did have somebody in house that was doing stuff. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, you're good. But you're talking about kids being able to do it, and agencies. So
yeah. So I was talking about starting the business, right? So like I jumped out, went freelance, work, and continued to work in the sports industry. And I'd take on some stuff here and there, whatever. And I did that full time for many, many years. And I got an opportunity to just work with a lot of different clients. And sometimes you meet people and they know people, or they go to another place. There's various universities that I've worked with, whether it's doing like banners or everything from like print design to like, then things became digital, doing like the Pac West was a Division II athletic conference out west, which has some of the most beautiful universities. Like Chaminade is in the Pac West. Was it, I think, Point Loma, which is like down like in San Diego. Like their photography is like, here's the soccer field and here's like the Pacific Ocean, right? Like it's crazy.
Beautiful.
And so, you just kind of meet people in the industry and they need work. And sometimes you reach out cold emails and try to get it. And that happens. There was a while that I actually went into lacrosse, and I worked in lacrosse for like 3 years, and it was a company out of Denver, and I would kind of go back and forth to Denver and got exposed to that sport, which I didn't know hardly anything about. I actually have a book on my bookshelf called Lacrosse for Dummies. Like I went and bought the book because I was like, I don't know anything about the sport. I'm going to try to learn about it before I go out here, and I was reading it on the plane, and I go out there, man, and it's like, 1,000 lacrosse kids, 30 fields of just lacrosse tournament, like going crazy. So I really try to just like dive into whatever it is that I'm like working on, and from a research perspective, whether it's a client or whether it's like a brand, and try to understand so that when I come and like do the work, I do things that are like a good fit for them.
But I mean, you've been in the sports industry forever. I mean, you grew up playing sports. You love it, right?
Yeah.
And you say you kind of wanted to get out, but now you've grown back into loving it again.
I
right?
sort of accepted it as a part of my identity after a while.
Part of your
what I'm saying?
DNA.
It was just like, but I think that I also felt sort of like led into that. Like I felt like it was like there was something like internal, whether it's like, God or whatever, like some kind of just like internal thing that like this is where I'm supposed to be.
You say God on here.
And yeah, Jesus.
Absolutely.
And it just came natural, like the client stuff came natural, or like understanding the industry and just like even learning about things. I love the sports business. Like I read Sports Business Journal, Sportico, like Front Office Sports, like all these things that just talk about the business and all the things that happen around sports. Like those are things I'm also really passionate about. I'm actually less passionate about like, like whatever happens with like some person gets traded or whatever happens on the field than I am where it's like, oh, so-and-so hired some marketing company or like they signed some tech deal with this brand and this stats company and all this stuff. So I really pay attention to all that stuff outside, just like in the realm of sports.
That's the stuff that, we as fans don't even see. We don't understand that that's going on in the background.
It's definitely like a kind of a business to business type thing. It's not, there are companies that make a lot of money that like there's one particular company that I work with at my current job, which is Overtime, a sports media company, and this company basically provides the stats for almost everything. Like they almost have like a complete monopoly on like digital stats to where like you can like get into their API from like a tech perspective and pull in like stats to like leagues or whatever and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in sports, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in tech in sports, and I think youth sports specifically, like youth sports is a $15 billion industry. Right. It's crazy. Man. And now a lot of that money is coming from like what it actually costs to play youth sports, but like everybody knows that like there's a lot of money in it, and with social media, I mean, there are recruiting companies that you pay somebody $3,000 a year, and they like try to build your social media following and like make recruiting videos for you or whatever. I mean, these are things you can do on your own, but it's like, do you have the time? I don't know. If you don't have the time and you got the money and you want to spend it on that, like there's a lot of stuff out there that you can do.
Right. A lot of avenues.
Some interesting things.
I'd like to reintroduce that youth sports stuff, sports talk, because I like to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
But let's hop on into a first commercial break here so we can make some money. Pruitt's Fireworks, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, locally owned.
Open daily, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. in Kroger, Ollie's, and Walmart parking lot.
Go see Pruitt Fireworks for all your 4th of July fireworks needs.
Out There Winning podcast is brought to you in part by Dubby, your taste buds' favorite energy drink.
Follow your bubby over to Facebook and click on the W. Get a 10% discount with our code Out There Winning. Fishes and Honeycomb Children's Boutique, where every outfit tells a story and every toy sparks imagination.
From beautiful dresses to adorable t-shirts, we have the perfect ensemble for every occasion.
Fishes and Honeycomb Children's Boutique at fishesandhoneycomb.com. Also, follow us on Facebook. Great Yard Prime Wash, Pressure Wash, and Soft Wash Services.
Destroying grime, one house at a time. Contact Great Yard Prime Wash at greatyardprimewash.com.
Pool Brothers. Turn your backyard into a dream oasis.
Complete pool installations from start to finish. Contact Pool Brothers at poolbrothers.com.
Chill Zone CBD at chillzonecbd.com.
Discover the natural benefits of CBD with our premium products. Whether you're seeking for relaxation, relief, or rejuvenation, our CBD's offering have you covered.
Your journey to natural relief starts at Chill Zone CBD. chillzonecbd.com.
X-Powered Travel.
Escape the ordinary and explore the extraordinary with our travel packages tailored to satisfy every wanderlust. Whether you crave the serenity of pristine beaches, the thrill of vibrant cities, or the awe-inspiring beauty of nature's wonders, we have the perfect destination waiting for you.
X-Powered Travel at xpoweredtravel.com. Next Level Entertainment.
Elevate your event to the next level with our premier mobile DJ services. Whether you're planning a wedding, corporate event, birthday bash, or any special occasion, our professional DJs are here to keep the party rocking all night long.
Find us on Facebook at Next Level Entertainment.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is our podcast, Out There Winning with James and Akeem.
Yeah, we got Adam Martin, again, industry leader in the sports design field. Adam, we were talking about the youth sports.
Yeah, youth sports and kind of like what a money pit it is.
Yeah, tell me about it. I've got my older son plays soccer, and we're kind of all over the place with him, and I do enjoy it. Like it, our family's together a lot. We're in hotels, or sometimes it's maybe just me and him. But and I mean, getting to see him grow and train and sort of build like like perseverance through things in sports. Like, I love sports. I try to push all my kids to play sports. They don't have to play at the level that he does, and I make that very clear. Like, my middle son just plays rec, and my daughter, we're trying to figure out what she's doing. Like, she did dance, she played soccer at one point. She's talking about wanting to play soccer again. We were basketball guys, right? I mean, I did grow up playing soccer, but basketball was my first love, and I was very passionate about it. Took a ball with me everywhere. Wasn't very good at it, other than warm-ups, right? Like, my time to shine was warm-ups, baby. I remember y'all were talking about Will Toy or something, saying he's the best pregame dunker, but I don't know, man. I feel like we got challenged that a little bit. Like, the class of 01, me and Akeem was out there doing some crazy stuff. But just don't expect me to shoot a jump shot out there. Like, that's I was too busy working on dunks at the city pool than shooting.
Man, wasn't that good playing at city pool when the courts were short?
Yeah. I loved playing outside. I felt like it was a whole cultural experience. It was great. Like, we talked about going up on the hill and playing.
Yeah.
I don't think kids do that anymore, and it stinks, because I feel like that was the thing. Like, it was, we after school about 6 o'clock, we go up there to the pool, you just play for hours, and your parents knew where you was at.
Yeah, they knew,
right? Like, and this was pre-cell phones, and then the little Nokias came out, and then that was when all your stuff started getting stolen at the pool. Now you go up there to play, you lay your stuff down, and then all of a sudden you ain't got a phone. When you get off the court, your phone's gone.
You didn't have no tracker on it either.
Yeah, but I love you sports, man, and I think that a little bit of the industry has become like a little bit of shameful as far as like how much things cost and all this stuff, and I hope that there's like, I hope that the industry kind of like innovates over time, and like the market kind of sets in, and people try to figure out like how can we find places for everyone to play if they want the opportunity. One thing I don't like is that how like the rec, there's almost like nothing in between. Like, basically, like, you go to rec and then you go to like this heavily paid thing, and I feel like where's the in between, right? Because like that gap's big. Sometimes you don't want to go all in to this thing that's costing, taking all this travel and all this money and whatnot.
You want your kid to be opened up to it, but you don't want them to be engulfed by it and have to do it daily and it become their life.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but I think sports. The one thing about sports, and this is one thing why I do like working in it, is like when like, actually the weirdest time was when COVID hit, right? And there's like no live sports, and everything was like, I feel like, what can we watch, right? Because most of the times when the economy's down or when something bad's going on, like, people will go watch sports, right? Like, it's like a getaway, right?
Yeah.
Entertainment.
And it's entertainment. People like are really passionate about whoever their favorite player is or their favorite team, and it's got like this. I got a friend, his name's Joe Bosak. He's a kind of I would consider him a mentor of mine too. He's another guy in the sports industry that's been doing like sports logos in college athletics for many, many years, and he would always talk about how it's very tribal, right? Like, there's like, why are we like, you'll argue with strangers or you'll like hug strangers over sports, right? Like, literally, like, I don't know this guy, but I just gave him a hug.
We got the same jersey,
like, because I mean, one of the craziest things happened to me, and it even gets weirder, right? Because like, I remember when I was in when me and my wife got married, we were in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I had on a UK shirt, and I'm walking, and this guy came up to me, he was like, "Hey, you from Kentucky?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm from Alabama," and I was like, all right. I mean, like, I guess we're SEC. Like, cool. We'll just dap each other up, right? Like, you try to find a way to, like, get in with people, and I feel like sports is a way to do that.
Yeah. You hit on something there a little bit earlier. We were talking about transy logos and so forth. Let's talk about a logo that really hits, I met all three of us essentially, and you have really changed the entire image of Montgomery County with the logo that's been around now for some time. But I met, we're used to seeing the Indian head and so forth, but you came in and really gave it a great facelift up there.
So we talk about being numb to stuff and you forget about things. Like, that's actually one that I always forget about because it happened so long ago. So back around the time when Happy Osborne was here coaching, we talked about doing some work and like kind of branding work, and it kind of started off with basketball, but then it like grew to be like, well, why don't we just do the whole athletic department? Phil Risen was here at the time, and I remember I had a meeting with him and like Nick Pinnell, who was a former soccer coach here, and so one of the big things was like having a lot of logos in high school sports, people just like steal the logo of a pro team and change the colors, right? Well, now in this internet era, like, that's being cracked down on a lot.
Yeah.
And teams are sending out cease and desist letters when they see stuff, right? So it was like, how do we get something that we own, something like sort of like a quote unquote like a flag that we can fly that is ours, right? And so that's what we did, and that M kind of became that, and it kind of took a life of its own. Honestly, like, I didn't expect it to go. It's everywhere, right? Yeah. Like it even went, like, it was supposed to be just athletics, but it became like the actual school system, right? Like, you see it on like the signs of all the schools, and even they'll take the feather and put it on like Northview, right? It's got the N out there or whatever. But
C in Camargo.
Yeah, it's got the C.
Yeah. I have seen that. I have seen that. Yeah. So it kind of took on a life of its own. So, like, I mean, it is like a cool little legacy thing, I guess, like long term. That's like to see my kid, like Colton, my oldest son this year, he played JV soccer, and they had it on like the JV jersey. So it was cool to like see that on it, or to see it on the football field. Like, if any of my kids like take senior pictures and they're around it, or like, so it would be cool to have them go from like something like that, and then maybe they go to like a transy or something, and then I got them like in my logos there too or whatever. I'm actually talking to another school in Kentucky right now, their athletic director, about doing some work. I can't really like unveil who it is, but hopefully that pans out. We're kind of going through like some of the bidding stuff right now, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that stuff is cool. Like I'm super blessed to have been able to do that kind of stuff.
Now, when we started the show, you was talking about your podcast. You had a podcast, and we both knew that because we both listened to it. But talk about that. Talk about your podcasting deal.
Yeah, we're kind of being gearheads before the show started, right? Because like they got a crazy setup over here. Like, it is, and I always, as someone that did a podcast, I was telling you guys, like, I want to know what's on that side of the camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking, I'm like, man, I'm very impressed with what y'all have done out here. But so again, kind of going back into the whole sports design thing. When I was probably like there was a brief period of time where like I got recruited to go to a tech company in Lexington after I'd freelanced for 6 years full time. So I went there to be their creative director, and then I wanted to go back out on my own again, and so I left, and I wanted to challenge myself to do something different because I'd already done the freelance thing for 6 years. So I was like, there was this one show that I'd always been looking for. A show about design in sports, and it didn't exist, and so I was like, well, I guess I want to try to do it, and so I designed a logo, built a website, kind of set up social media for it, and then just started growing my following and doing all this stuff. And that's another one of those things that sort of took a life of its own when you post every day and you start to build a following. And I started getting like one of the founders of shoot, like a big I can't think of who it is, but it's a big like old school like streetwear brand. Like I started getting like people like this following the account, or like people that worked at Nike or all these things. Yeah. And so my show was called Makers of Sport. And so the whole idea was that like I'm interviewing people that make things in sport, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be designers. It can be video people. I interviewed like filmmakers, startup entrepreneurs, tech people, anybody that kind of like creates things in the world of sport. And that's why I didn't want to be just design based, but where I am a designer, like that tended to be where a lot of my contacts were. So I did that. And it didn't make any money. I deliberately chose not to do sponsors because I didn't want to like have to sell sponsors and all this stuff. So like I kind of had like avenues where people could like pay me if they wanted to. It was like joining a private community or whatever. And I had some very loyal people that did that, sure. And I'm very grateful for them. But I met a lot of friends throughout the industry, like and scaled that network even more. So like as I'm bringing on people to interview them, like we're connecting, right? And it's like, hey, like when they need work, who they calling, right? So we're building relationships that way. And I saw this like. And then podcasting had this boom. So it started in 2014. About 2015, I had brought on this guy, and he was a vice president of design for a company called Vox Media, which they make SB Nation, right? Like all those SB Nation websites. Right. Yeah. So he had come on and we talked about some of the work they did, and they branded all these websites. There's like 500 logos or something. And one of the designers that did it, his name was Fraser Davidson, who's in the UK, but he'd also come on my show. And it got picked up like on Apple's New and Noteworthy, right? So like it's front page. I'm screenshotting it because somebody sent it to me. A buddy of mine was like, "Dude, have you seen this?" And I was like, "I didn't even know." Yeah. Because where I wasn't selling sponsors, like I wasn't actually checking the numbers either. So like then I go check the numbers and I'm like, man, the numbers like shot up because it went front page. So I screenshotted that, kept that for like keepsake, and kind of kept doing that over the years. It got me awesome opportunities. I got to go speak at a lot of different conferences that are based around sports. I got to became good friends with a girl who is now the creative director of the Detroit Lions. At the time, she was at Mississippi State. She knew I was a UK fan. Kentucky was coming down to play, so she was like, "Why don't you come down here? I'll get you a media pass." And I got to do all kinds of cool stuff like that, right? Because like this one thing that I'm doing as like a passion project. Sometimes it's not about the monetary aspect of stuff. It's about things that it leads to. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like whether it's networking, whether it's like stuff like that. We were talking about this baseball. I interviewed this guy that called Huntington Baseball Company, and he makes like handmade leather products. And one of the products that he makes is a baseball. And he like stamped my logo in it, gave it to me, and I would like give one away to listeners and stuff. It was a side hustle that kind of turned into something that was like bigger than I thought it would be. And like I couldn't have even predicted where it would go. But like in hindsight, I'm so glad that I did it, because to sit down and do something that you're not going to get paid for is tough sometimes. But when it's your thing and you own it and like no one else has to say, because the one thing about working like prior to that is even though I was like working for myself, if you're in the services industry, people try to act like you don't have any bosses. Well, you do got bosses. You got a bunch of bosses. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And those customers are your bosses, and they're telling you what to do and whatever, and you got to push back sometimes, and you kind of pick and choose your battles, and sometimes you fire them, which I've fired clients all the time. Like, especially when I was younger and had a little bit more ego, I was just like, I'm out, like, see ya. And now I'm like, I better hold on to this one a little longer. I got to pay these kids. Like, I got 3 kids eating me out of house at home,
You're taking a beating.
And so, this was something that I owned that I was the boss of. I could do whatever I wanted, and people would come and try to give me suggestions. I was like, I don't care what, like there's this website, there's like these website forums where the sports, logo, like nerds and uniform nerds will go frequent, and they'll be like, yeah, I wish he would do this. And sometimes I would take those suggestions, and sometimes I wouldn't, because I'd be like, hey, guess what, man, if that's what you want to do it, go do it. That's right. Because like I'm doing this for me. And in the beginning I would always joke like maybe my mom will listen to it. I don't know who's gonna listen to this, right. But people started listening. And the crazy thing that I noticed though was that I would go to this conference, and it was like it was this creative conference in sports. It was called Major Level Connect, and it was all like, it would be at the Astros. It started off with the guy that was working with the Astros. Now it's kind of all over. Actually, the next one is in Detroit at the Detroit Lions, I believe. But anyway, all the in-house marketing departments would come. Well, people would like come up to me and be like, hey, I listen to your show, and like, because they're listening to you speak, they think they know you. And I knew that. And so like, even though I don't know them, I tried to like play it off like we're cool. Like, yeah, like I know that you think you know me. So like, I'm going to dap you up and like, so that was always big. And that was an entryway into going into conferences and being like, I don't have to walk around and seek people out and shake hands because people are coming up and shaking my hand, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, there's Adam, let's do a show. And I'd wear like this shirt or whatever. And sometimes I even go interview people there. So, doing things. I love podcasting. It is, as you guys know and are starting to know, like it is a lot of work.
Oh, it's a lot of work, man. Absolutely.
And I thought that like, how hard could it be, man? I'll just press record and we'll just roll, right? And like, I remember my first episode, like I took no notes. I just sat down. I was like, I'm just going to free range this thing. And then I get in there and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to write down some stuff, man, because I'm losing train of thought. I can't figure out where I'm going with this.
The hours you put in thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, you're coming up with questions. You're doing research on your guest. You're writing down things if you want to read through stuff. Like you're doing intros, you're doing outros. Then you're posting things to social media, and then you're making like your little assets. Like I see you got your logos, you got all your like little shiny stuff or whatever you put. All that takes time. It's crazy. Yeah. And in that, so what happens is like it starts getting bigger. And then I'm also like, this thing don't make any money. And I'm having to do design work on, to fund this. Yep. And then I think one thing was like, I eventually burned out a little bit. Like I did that for like 8 years. And so there's a lot of people that still know me as that. And I got a tweet today from a guy who was like, who just discovered the show. And he was like, I'm super sad that this thing hasn't existed for 2 years, but like, man, this content is like great. And, and I'm like, I will revive the brand in some way. I just don't know what it is yet. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a podcast. I might do a newsletter or something, but, I got to do a lot of stuff, man. And I got actually Front Office Sports. We were talking about Front Office Sports. FrontOfficeSports.com is a website that covers the business of sports. Right. I had that dude on my show. Like he was a student at Miami, the University of Miami. And he came on my show and he was building that while being a server. At a restaurant, and he's blown up. Like he's got investment. He's got an office in New York City. Like that thing kind of took over sports, but like went beyond Sports Business Journal. Like Kevin Durant, people read sport like Front Office Sports. Well, then there was this whole world of like athletes started getting more into investment. And people like Kevin Durant, LeBron, really kind of like I think Jordan probably set the tone for being a business person in the world of sports, but like I think LeBron took it to the next level. Like he just from day one has like a content company, uninterrupted. He's doing deals with like HBO. I mean, it is crazy. And like now we talk about like how NIL is going up. Like these kids now grow up and they understand branding and they understand TikTok and growing followers and having a following, and it is a very important part. And you'll see like a lot of old school people are like, oh, these kids are only doing it for this, and it's like, no, they're not. That's just part of life now. Yeah. Like if you're trying to get a job, dude, like you got to have a social media presence or like everything, depending on what you do, right? Like I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying like if you want to work in something that has social media, you probably better have some type of presence. And it's networking, you meet people and this kind of stuff. But the industry honestly I always joke that I'm always too early to things like podcasting. I got into podcasting in 2014. It started blowing up like like right now it's huge, right? Yeah. Like everybody has podcasts, and I because I'm like a techie, I like early adopt stuff, and so like I'll get in on things early, and then I burn out by the time it like hits the hot. I'm like I'm done with it. I'll move on.
Again, if you have just now joined us, we're sitting here with Adam Martin. He is an industry leader in sports design. Has done a lot of things with different companies, universities, as well as high schools throughout the state, throughout the United States. One thing that I have noticed is, been following you and stuff. You do a lot of stuff, which was really cool. When I got into coaching, you were doing some things for some athletes. Oh yeah, designs. Yeah. I know the one when you came up. I think it was. I could be totally wrong. Was it like Malik Monk?
Yeah, I did Malik Monk. So pre-NIL. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When athletes would graduate from school, there was this company called Athlete Essentials. And this just goes to speak to relationships. Like I played in a men's league in Lexington with a dude for years. We never talked about what we did. We just like, I'd show up, he was the 5, I was like a 3-4, and I'm passing the ball, right? Like that's, and then one day it was just like, what do you do? It's like, oh, you're an accountant. Okay, cool. I'm a designer. And it was like, oh, but I got this other thing. We work with like athletes, and it was like they do like Rondo's taxes or whatever. And so I kind of had pitched him on this idea that a logo is like a trademark is an asset. It's a financial asset. So if you think about how much the Jordan logo is worth, right, or the Nike logo or whatever, right, like to stick that on something, it sells things, right? So Shaq was real smart, and he's another guy that I should have shouted out when it comes to like an athlete being a business person.
I was about to interrupt you with it because
because Shaq's big time. Shaq's big time. But anyway, Shaq owned his own logo. Remember, he like eventually like left Reebok. He took it with him. And he tried to put on some Walmart shoes or something that didn't do well. But those things are assets. And so like Roger Federer, when he was with Nike, he had this RF logo, and it was like super popular. It was on all the tennis stuff, whatever. Well, then he left Nike and he went to like Uniqlo or whatever. It was like it's like a UK brand, and he thought he could still use his logo, and he found out he can't because Nike designed it. So Nike owns it. So my whole thing was like, design the logo and license it to your to your company that you sign with, right? So this is what Shaq did. So basically, that was kind of where it came from. So we were kind of doing that with like college athletes and UK guys that were graduating. I did Tyler Eulis's. I was doing some stuff for like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. We had stuff ready to go, and then like there's a lot of people in their ears, and like, somebody pops in, like some manager, he's got 2 different like managers or whatever, and this manager wants to go this way, this one wants to go this way. And so there's been a lot of stuff like that that I've done. But I love working with athletes. I'm definitely like pro athlete over like teams. Getting into this NIL era, I don't know quite where I stand on like a college like paying a salary to the kids, but like I have always felt like that if Reed Shepherd wants to go to the Fayette Mall and somebody's willing to pay him $6,000 for an autograph, he should be able to do it.
Right.
Because in my opinion, that's a capitalist society, right? Like, there should be no limits on that. That's something completely separate from the university. Like he's got a brand, and look, I'm not paying $6,000 for no autograph, but somebody's willing to do it. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Because things are worth what people say they're worth. And like, when you go out, like how much are Jordans worth? Well, they're worth $250 because that's what people are paying for them, right? Yeah. So to me, like I feel like athletes should have always been able to go make money on their own name. Yeah. I think when you throw the university name in, it gets a little tougher. Like I don't know. I'm glad people are working that out that are not me, because that's not, I'm not smart enough to deal with all that stuff. But like I think it's a good thing in theory. I think it's a good thing, but like I don't like it is going to blow up and it's going to get crazy.
It's becoming where you're buying players.
There is a lot of that. So, like did y'all see the Texas post where they pull up and there's a bunch of Lambos sitting out front? Like it's like 6 Lambos and Texas guys are walking in, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, but like to act like that everything was pure before is crazy.
Yeah,
and it wasn't,
right? Because like I know for a fact there are athletes that paid like a $1 a month lease on like certain things or whatever, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, everything's changing, and just college sports in general, right? Like I actually follow a lot of college soccer right now because my kid's into soccer and we go to a lot of games, and just you don't know what's going to happen to these non-revenue sports, right? Like now that what is, as of yesterday, Texas and Oklahoma are in the ACC, the SEC and the ACC grew too. They started their whole new, and you got like Oregon and the Big Ten. Like everything's nuts. In college athletics. I don't know where it's going to go. I love college athletics. I love high school athletics. I love them more than pro athletics because I feel like there's like the pageantry involved, and like we're talking about going on a campus and all these types of things. I don't know where it's going to go, and I hope it's still around, but I fear that I think football's probably just going to take off and do its own thing, and everything else is on its own.
I think they're going to wind up doing away with some of these little these tournaments and playoffs and stuff like that, and like you said, it's just going to be doing its own thing.
The problem was always that you bring these kids into these programs and you use their names, right, and their likeness and all the things, and they get nothing. But now they're getting millions of dollars. There was like no like middle ground. It didn't.
Yeah. It wasn't like we're going to give you $10,000.
Yeah,
it's like
it didn't evolve from
It's like,
something.
no,
It
you
was
understand.
just-
It's going to take $3 million for me not to leave.
Yeah,
right.
It's like I'm a pro now. You
there's
pay
demands.
me now. Man, it's that's the craziest thing for me.
But there's a lot of people that ain't going to make the money in the league, right? I mean, I think there's been in college sports. You think about some of the biggest names in college sports. Oftentimes, those names aren't big names in the pros.
Right.
Like I don't know, famous college basketball players, Tim Tebow, right? Like, dude, if he had NIL back then, not that he's not doing bad now because he's on SEC Network or whatever, but like there's a lot of people that could have made a lot of money with their jersey sales or whatever. And
something I kind of think about too is what's this going to do to like other pro programs, like the overseas pro guys, like some of these kids would play overseas, they couldn't make it to the league. But in college, they made millions of dollars.
Well, all them overseas guys are getting drafted first, second, third now.
Right. And you got a lot of NBA guys who decide, hey, I'm just going to stay overseas, play and so forth. But speaking on that NIL, as a college fan, right? I also think as a college coach, I'm also thinking that the NIL has really, if you got a pro guy, if I recruit a pro guy. I know he's a pro, top 10, 20 or whatever, right? He's going pro after 1 year. We know that. And we talk about trying to win a college championship, right? And we talk about things that are going into winning a college championship, diving on the floor, hustle plays. Is that pro guy really, or, is that guy really going to dive on the floor, if he's getting paid $1 million, knowing that he's getting ready to go pro?
He's got to keep them knees in check. Hey, but what was I do remember many years ago. You remember the guy at South Carolina? I think he was a running back, and he hurt his knee.
Right.
And then, like the next year, he came back, and then he hurt his other knee, and then he was just done.
He's done. Yeah.
And I look at things like that. Like there's a lot of stuff that's messed up. That was a situation where I think he was like not old enough to go to the league yet, right? Because football, what is like after junior year, or something like that. So you look at situations like that, and you feel bad for him because like the dude was a star. And then what's he going to do now? That's all he's had,
If they're going to pay it, get paid, I guess, right?
Well, and nobody's going to turn down a paycheck.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's a lot of double standards in a lot of these sports because, like, we got to a point now where we're paying athletes, but they can't go pro in certain because of they got to do their year or whatever, right? Or football got to do all their years or whatnot. But then you got this, this 16-year-old kid who's representing the Olympics.
Oh yeah. I never understood how that works.
Like, how does that?
He fast too.
Like no,
hope them all win and wish them much success. But man, it's
what's her name? Like Katie Ledecky or whatever. I don't remember. Was she Georgia or Florida? I don't remember like which program
it was Georgia.
she was. But she was in school at the last Olympics, right, or whenever. And I just remember thinking like, how do you? I guess maybe they're not allowed to take any money
right
from anything.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like the problem too, I think, is that people are trying to find like this one solution fits all.
Yes.
And it's like, because you look at the soccer world, like a lot of these kids are going like in college soccer, they're bringing in guys that grew up in these European academies, and they're like 25 years old, and they're coming over here and being a 25-year-old freshman.
Yeah.
And it's like, they had a fully funded academy experience, and is that considered being paid? Like, are you a pro? Like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's like, I think that but I'm also like, I also see stories of guys that go into a European soccer academy at 6 years old, and it's their whole life, and then they get released when they're 22, and some people like kill themselves because they're just like, what am I going to do? This is the only thing I've ever known since I was a 6-year-old kid, So I think when you talk about like having an identity earlier, and I was talking about like all sports have become a part of my identity, you got to have other things.
You've hit on. I think both of y'all had hit on. When there's no in between. Like I feel like there should be stepping stones or gradual pay increases. Like if I'm going to go, recruit, Adam Martin as a basketball player, and I'm paying. Maybe him $100,000. If he comes back, I may give him $200,000. If we win a SEC tournament, I'm gonna give him a bonus.
Yeah. Now you're getting like coaching contracts in a way, right?
They're gonna have salary cap.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna end up happening.
But you got what's his name from Washington, the 16-year-old kid who signs with Washington. Something great. I forgot his last name. Something great. I can't remember. But anyways, I'm at $2 million. I'm at $2 million, but he's guaranteed there for 2 years because he's not old enough to go to the league.
Oh yeah.
So he's 16, so he gets to play 17, and he's 18.
Yeah.
I'm at, and then like as you mentioned, there's a lot of tragic accidents that happen. When somebody's given something or gifted something, either money or physical ability, and they can't do it because that's all they know. Mm-hmm. What mental state does that put them at?
Yeah, I think that they're like one positive thing about all these athletes that are building these businesses and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like I do think that they're starting to see that like, hey, I can leverage my brand power in other ways and like start an LLC, get somebody to pay me my LLC, go do some stuff here. I think that is a positive, honestly, because it allows them to like transition into something else, whether it's a business or whatever. And I think that, again, like I think LeBron like basically built that whole thing. You think about he's got his 5 dudes that are always around him, like Maverick Carter runs all his businesses, right? Like he went to high school with them. A lot of that stuff, like we talked about Uninterrupted. He's got like this brand, which is a media company he's had since the beginning, and he like licenses that to HBO or whatever. I think it's HBO, and like kind of goes back to owning the logos too. We were talking about where Kevin Durant back years ago, there was talk of him leaving and going to Under Armour. And his KD logo on his shoes, right? Very famous, right? Everybody could draw it. Every kid could draw it, whatever. And that's the point of branding as well, right? Because like want to implant that thing in your brain.
That thing going on notebooks.
But and that's why a lot of people try to overcomplicate design, right? And really like some of the best design and the hardest design is to when you remove things to make it so simple that people can remember it, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to being so complicated. I got all this like stuff in here. But anyway, so back to the Kevin Durant thing. Like if he would have left and went to Under Armour, that logo's gone, right? So back to Federer. Federer, actually, I think there was a lawsuit or something. There was some kind of back and forth between him and Nike eventually like relinquished the logo to him and let him have it. But like he didn't know, like the fact that he didn't know, right? That like, I don't just get to keep that. I think Kawhi Leonard had a similar situation, like when he had left and went somewhere else, and he had like his hand logo or something, and he wanted to take it with him, and they were like, no, like we designed that, we own the trademark to that, all this stuff. So my thought was like, hey, I think now people are getting smarter and like, hey, I can build this thing, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a media company, whatever, and I can now license that to you, and it's going to come on your network, but I still own it. Right. So like when our contract's up, I'm taking my stuff with me, and we're going to renegotiate. It's basically how all like the sports work in general, right? Like the Big Ten network or the SEC, right, comes in and ESPN and Fox Sports, whoever comes in bids on it, and then the SEC decides who's going to give us more money. And then we go with them, right? But they still own the content.
Yeah. Everybody, we are talking with Adam Martin here about everything sports design and really sports related. We're having a pretty good show, but we're going to go to a commercial break. Pruitt's Fireworks, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, locally owned.
Open daily, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. in Kroger, Ollie's, and Walmart parking lot.
Go see Pruitt Fireworks for all your 4th of July fireworks needs.
Out There Winning podcast is brought to you in part by Dubby, your taste buds' favorite energy drink.
Follow your bubby over to Facebook and click on the W. Get a 10% discount with our code Out There Winning. Fishes and Honeycomb Children's Boutique, where every outfit tells a story and every toy sparks imagination.
From beautiful dresses to adorable t-shirts, we have the perfect ensemble for every occasion.
Fishes and Honeycomb Children's Boutique at fishesandhoneycomb.com. Also, follow us on Facebook. Great Yard Prime Wash, Pressure Wash, and Soft Wash Services.
Destroy and grind, one house at a time. Contact Great Yard Prime Wash at greatyardprimewash.com.
Pool Brothers. Turn your backyard into a dream oasis.
Complete pool installations from start to finish. contact Pool Brothers at poolbrothers.com.
Chill Zone CBD at chillzonecbd.com.
Discover the natural benefits of CBD with our premium products. Whether you're seeking for relaxation, relief, or rejuvenation, our CBD's offering have you covered.
Your journey to natural relief starts at Chill Zone CBD. chillzonecbd.com.
X-Powered Travel.
Escape the ordinary and explore the extraordinary with our travel packages tailored to satisfy every wanderlust. Whether you crave the serenity of pristine beaches, the thrill of vibrant cities, or the awe-inspiring beauty of nature's wonders, we have the perfect destination waiting for you.
X-Powered Travel at xpoweredtravel.com. Next Level Entertainment.
Elevate your event to the next level with our premier mobile DJ services. Whether you're planning a wedding, corporate event, birthday bash, or any special occasion, our professional DJs are here to keep the party rocking all night long.
Find us on Facebook at Next Level Entertainment. All right, we're back. Thank you guys again for tuning in to Out There Winning. We're here with Adam Martin, an industry leader in our sports design area.
Adam, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yep. So back probably 2-3 years ago, I'd been doing my thing, my company, T.A. Martin Studio, which I just kind of like had variations of my name over the years or whatever. But anyway, it was still just me, and sometimes I'd bring on contractors and whatnot. I got approached by a guy that was a former vice president of design at the NFL, and he had gone to work at a company called AccuWeather. Everybody's got like the weather app and all these things, so AccuWeather was a weather company. He was trying to bring on some sports people to bring a different
Flavor stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, it sounds kind of interesting. Like, I don't love weather, but we'll give this a shot. You know what I'm saying?
I like good weather.
And it was, yeah, exactly. And it was, but it had 300 million users, global company. The digital product team, which is the team that I was a part of, was headquartered in the World Trade Center. So it was like, all right, let's do this, right? Like this is kind of getting me into this world of product, what we call digital product. And so what is digital product? Like Facebook is a digital product. Apps are digital products. So basically things that people use, those are products, right? So like physical products, whether it's like this mug or whatever, these phones, like these are physical products. I've now become what's called a product designer. And so what I design are digital products. And so went to work at AccuWeather. It wasn't for me.
You only draw the clouds so many ways, right?
Well, I mean, it was a little corporate for my taste.
Right. You did your job, though, because I downloaded the app.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore.
I had to sit in on 5-hour HR trainings and whatnot, and all this stuff. And I was just like, man, I'm not vibing with this at all. And I just there were people there, in their defense, that loved weather.
Oh yeah,
passionate about it, like tornado check, just me. The company actually is an interesting. It's got an interesting business model because you have the app, which makes money, millions and millions of downloads, and of course there's ads in it, right?
Yep.
But then you have these meteorologists that are like account reps, and so as a company, you would hire us and we would give you a meteorologist. And so if I'm a concert, so Live Nation concerts would use us. And when you get the weather on television or whatever, it's usually generalist kind of weather, but they would give a meteorologist and be like, all right, they're going to give you the nitty gritty details. there's going to be a tornado coming through here. You're going to see a lot about it on the weather, but it ain't going to hit your exact location, so you're good to keep running your concert.
Right.
So, like, it's crazy how they could track it. But anyway, did that for a while, and I was like, I got to get back to sports. Like, this is not what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And like, there was like definitely some hierarchy type stuff, and like, oh, you got to pay your dues and all that. And like, that's just not how I roll, man. I've never rolled like that.
Yeah.
I don't pay dues like that. Like, I go do my thing, right? Like, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so, but I did make some cool contacts there, so I still talk to a few people there. Thankfully, like, fortunately, I got out because they actually ended up just like literally just gutting that whole department. Like,
Oh, wow.
there was a lot of crazy corporate politics and battles. I did get to see a lot of crazy stuff and learn some stuff. I did kind of like fly on the wall, be like, interesting meeting where like these executives are going at it or whatever. So Overtime, right? So this company called Overtime. I was planning on going back out doing my own thing again, and Overtime was looking for a UI UX designer, which is user interface, user experience. The design director went to Penn State. AccuWeather was founded at Penn State, so I knew this goes back to connections, right? Like, I knew he would know what AccuWeather was, so I hit him up. I'm like, "Yo, I work at AccuWeather, worked in sports for 15 years, whatever it was. I'm trying to get back to sports, trying to moonlight, get started again, come back out on my own, whatever, because I'd let go of my clients and whatnot." He was like, "Yeah, cool." So chatted with him for a little bit. It was going to start off as a contract gig, and then they were like, "Why don't you just come work here full time?" And I was like, all right, cool. And then they're like, well, we need you to move to New York. And I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm not moving to New York, right? Like, I like where I'm at. I live in my little country town, and I have no problem driving to Lexington, hopping on a plane, and going anywhere, right? And I have lived my whole life as a digital native, let's say. Like, Akeem, you grew up on the internet, right? Like, I'd come to your house and download songs on like Napster or whatever, right?
Stuff, right? LimeWire, all that.
So like we
Still in that music.
That's right. We burning CDs all day.
It took forever, man.
It did, didn't it?
Sometimes the internet would quit.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole song.
But I still probably got some CDs
we still got all
out there.
sorts of warm-up songs, don't we?
Yeah. I'm a child of the internet, right? So I was like, I don't need to move anywhere. I'll work on the internet. Like, why do I got to sit in a seat so you can like wherever, right? So I've always kind of lived that way. And I had a friend, he's actually in Lexington, and he had said something to me many years ago. His name's Wes Keltner. He started this company called Gun Media. He wanted to be a game like in the gaming industry, and he basically, I watched this dude like just like build his own path out of nothing, right? Like, he was being told you got to move to LA and like all these things, and he was like, I remember going to lunch with him one time, and he was like, I will never let my area code hinder what I can do.
Right.
And that planted a seed in me, and it stuck with me forever. Like, I've worked with the Tennessee Titans, I've worked with NFL teams, and I was a part of their team, right? Like, I'm literally in meetings with them, like weekly meetings, 7, whatever, like 8 o'clock, hop on the call. Like, then COVID hit and it changed everything. Like, everybody was remote forever. It became a more normal way of life, but I've been remote since inception, right? Like, since the beginning. But anyway, they want to move. Long story short, they wanted me to move to New York. I was like, it's a deal breaker for me. I'm not moving to New York. They were like, all right. We worked it out. I came on board. I've been there over 2 years. Longest I've ever worked anywhere as a W9 employee. It's the longest I've ever worked anywhere. Usually I like quit and I go back out on my own, but I love my team of people that I work with, and I love what we do, and I think the company is kind of like the ESPN of like the next generation. Like, we grew up watching like clips on Sports Center, like top 10 before we went to school, and these kids grow up on phones, right, and watch things on phones, and it's hard to get kids to watch full games, so they watch clips. And now we build leagues. We got OTE, Overtime Elite. There were multiple guys that went to Kentucky last year. There were a bunch of guys that were supposed to go to Kentucky this year, but everybody ran off. Yeah. And like, we got like a football league, OT7, that was on the NFL Network this year.
I watched that.
And it's really kind of like taking this next generation of sports media and moving it into the next generation, which is like a mixture of all the things we've talked about, which is like what happens on the field with what happens off the field, and entertainment and big personalities and storylines and all this stuff. So like, anyway, what I do there is I lead a team of designers, and then I'm on a team with some other tech people, so developers, programmers, that kind of thing, and we build all of our digital products. So basically the websites, we have some like in-house products that only our like camera people use or whatever. So yeah, that's what I do now, and I've been there for 2 years. And then like additionally, we have the streetwear side, which is like all of our clothing and stuff. So most of the time, if you see me, you're gonna see me rocking Overtime stuff. That's because I get a quality discount and sometimes get things for free for like Christmas presents or whatever.
Right.
Hey, bro, Christmas time, 3XLT, baby. Hit me up.
I'm not like a guy that goes out and buys clothes, right? So it's like, here's a gift card to the company for Christmas. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll get a new shirt, right?
I'll wear it on the show. Let's go.
But yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I really enjoy it, and I think we're doing big things.
Yeah, man, I got to see. We went down to the arena down there. I mean, it's a real nice arena down there, and I think there was I believe there's a Kentucky kid that went down to visit, Xander Carter from Ashland, Kentucky. I think they offered him a scholarship to play on OTE and whatnot, and I think he declined it. And
yeah, I don't.
You don't get involved in all that
I don't know
stuff,
much about those things.
Yeah, you're on the back end again. We talk about the things that aren't seen, but
I work with some of the people in Atlanta are great. On the tech side, I work with some of these people, and when it comes to like the signees and whatever, like
you say all that. That's not your arena, right?
I'm behind the scenes.
Yeah,
it's fun to show up and watch a game, though, isn't it?
Man,
games are a lot of entertainment. They're fun. A lot of screens going around.
Oh yeah.
We're trying to figure out ways to innovate.
We were talking earlier about. No, I just want to grab your thoughts. You've been around the sports industry for a long time. We were talking about NIL deals, high schools, going into college, people sitting out. Now, I was talking about we were getting kids, and I see a lot of colleges now that are getting kids that never played high school sports. They're either AAU or homeschool, and then next thing you know, they're on a team. Like, and they never, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you were mentioning the kid that only played AAU. I guess you picked him up, right? Yeah. So only played AAU, never played a high school sport, right? I'm seeing right now in the soccer, it's really big in soccer. Like in soccer, these like quote unquote pro academies are wanting to get you to come in and like buy into their system, and then don't play high school sports.
Right.
I personally love high school sports. We mentioned this, the pageantry of it. Like, it feels like, it feels like you belong to something. I don't think people are going to come back to a club or AAU game and feel like a same sense of nostalgia you're going to get if like we were to walk back to the barn,
right?
Like, I don't feel nothing when I walk in the arena because I never played in there, right? But when I go in the barn, it smells the same.
Yeah.
If they turn the heat up 15, 20 more degrees, it'll feel the same. You know what I'm saying? Because Coach Scott had that thing blazing. But I'm all about high school sports, and you have to understand what it is too, right? Like you're the thing about high school sports it is that one opportunity we're talking about for everybody to play.
Yeah.
You're going to have kids that can't afford club or whatever that are going to be on there, and you're going to have big different gaps in skills. And in my opinion, you're going to have kids that might be on their club team or your AAU team where you've got 18 of the best players in the state,
right? And
you're a role player on that team. But now you come to your high school team, and you're a leader, and you're like one of the better players. And so, like, how do you, like, from a personality perspective, like, adapt yourself and learn from being like, you're the man here, but you ain't the man here, right? So, like, how do you're building a better person, in my opinion, like long term, because you're getting like these different aspects of what you do, and nobody's like one dimensional or whatever, and this kind of stuff.
I agree. I think there's kids out there. I do believe they need to play on their high school teams, and
I'm a big fan of high school sports.
I mean,
big fan of middle school sports and even youth athletics. Just getting kids out there doing things, and getting better at something.
And I think like our parents' generation don't really club sports when we were growing up wasn't as big of a thing as it is now, right? Like I remember hearing about AAU, but it was like some little.
You had to go try out for the team.
Yeah.
You had to try
and now
out.
it's like
it's a money grab.
It's crazy. It's how big it is. There's basketball every weekend in different places, and kids are getting rings and all this stuff. And it's like, man, what is going on?
A lot of rings, ain't it? Every weekend.
But and then also like in the basketball world, like I will say one thing soccer does have down is you can't just like up and leave and go somewhere else. Like it is governed by a central like U.S. youth soccer. Like you have a player card and you can't just be like, I'm mad that I didn't play here. I'm gonna go to this other team. Whereas like I feel like, hey, you basketball, you show up. I got 3 kids. You know, I got my team. There's 3 kids on our team. They're pretty good. We beat them, and I'm like, hey, y'all come play with us next week.
Right.
That's crazy to me. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
but
well, that's why you see the transfer portal what it is now.
I hate the transfer.
You know what I mean?
The transfer portal is one thing that I like don't like.
Yeah.
Because a lot of coaches say you got to recruit your kids every year. You know. And everybody's like, oh, Kentucky, one and done. I'm like, this whole team we got right now is going to be one and done.
I'm telling you.
like, they're all transfer kids.
Yeah, they're all transfer kids. They're all transfer kids. They're going to be,
they'll be in the portal.
But look, I'm down. I'm cool. I'm cool with Mark Pope, right?
Yeah,
like
I am too.
I like to go on Facebook and speak in the sarcasm font a lot, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I like to just get people going, but in reality, like I did like Cal.
But the real, I think
I like Pope.
Cal's great. Pope, I think, has an opportunity to be great. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and he's
Different
not.
style.
He's not a bad coach by any means. I hope that
All the
most
social media
success
stuff's
for
been
him.
good.
Yeah.
You know, so
he's entertaining.
yeah.
You know, honestly,
kids ain't
He's
there
got
for
a good
the championships.
personality.
I'm telling you, man, them kids they want that money and go to the league. I'm telling you, they can play the game all the way through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're kids, right? Like.
It feels
and they're calling their mom trying to get something to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These kids are making $3 million, $2 million, whatever.
And them kids are going to the league, or they're not going to be here. They don't understand that. I mean, it is what it is. But
look, like I you know, somebody was mentioning something about, you're going to talk about Reed Shepherd on here. Like, I'm not a Reed Shepherd hater. I like Reed Shepherd.
Yeah.
I used to like get mad at his defense. But they don't play defense in NBA, so he's good, right? But my big thing with all that stuff that was going on is everybody was hating on these kids like Rob Dillingham. You know, I'm a big Rob Dillingham guy. For going and pursuing their dream or whatever and being a one and done, but then nobody's saying nothing about Reed,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, Reed, like
He gonna be
I'm like, he's
homebody.
about to do the same
Yeah,
thing,
he's
and y'all
gonna
are
do
just
the same.
ignoring that, right?
Yeah.
Like because he's from Kentucky, which is fine. I get why it's like, you know, everybody's on board. I'm the same way. Like, I love that we brought this Harlan kid up here. You know, I like seeing these kids come and play from the
hometown,
from the home state.
You go to
whatever.
college, you want to get out and get a job.
Yeah.
You know, if the NBA is your job, that's your dream. That's what you wanted to do. It when you got there, hop out and go when they call you.
Yeah,
right?
I mean the majority of these people obviously are not going to go to the league, right? But you can still work in this is the thing. You can still work in basketball.
100%.
You can still work in sports, whether you go on the coaching staff or you go the sort of the quote unquote front office side, sort of like how I did. I mean, you can still find a way to do the thing that you're passionate about and go work in it.
right?
That's what I like to try to push on people is like, if you want to work in sports, there's avenues to get there and go do it. You might have to like hustle really hard in the beginning and you know, we were talking about paying your dues and all that stuff. I paid my dues by doing my own thing. Right. Like sometimes I ain't got, you know, I didn't have money to go eat or whatever. But then you kind of like keep hustling and get more clients and whatever. I wasn't about to go pay my dues in a company. Right. Cause I'm like, I've been doing this 18 years. I ain't gonna come in and start at the bottom enough, you know, whatever. So
you know your worth, right?
Yeah.
Know your value and stuff. You know, as we start to wrap this up, Adam, can you talk a little bit about like folks who are, or talk to the folks that are out there that are interested in design and maybe some steps that they need to do to get into the field that you're doing?
Yeah. So YouTube University, right, is number one.
Well, I mean, I'm just kind of track back a little bit. I do remember, you know, when you were sitting in class, you remember you used to draw those rims and shoes.
Oh yeah, I pulled out a book.
Those dudes with the eyes that are bugging out.
Yeah.
I used to draw shoes a lot. I was always a sneakerhead.
Yeah,
I got
always. Slam magazine.
I got on Yeezys right now.
Yeah.
But Slam magazine, actually, that's a good. I need to talk about that because Slam is kind of one of the things that planted the seed into me.
100%.
In like what I wanted, like it.
If you needed an issue, you go to Adam Martin's house, and he had it.
I was at a church youth function, and somebody got me. We were doing like, you know, pass out gifts, whatever. Somebody drew my name. They knew I like basketball. They gave me like, it was like issue number 3 of Slam, number 3.
Yeah.
And I open it up, Shaq's on the cover. I start reading it, and it's like got all this it was like, we're in middle school and we're learning how to write and we're learning how to, read and like write papers and all stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing slam, and slam is speaking in slang.
Your language, yeah.
And sort of hip hop speak or whatever. And I'm like, you can do this? Like, you can write like this? And like, this is a real thing. Like, they're telling us we got to like put commas on,
Right.
And so I kept reading it. Scoop Jackson was a famous, very famous writer. He was kind of the main writer back then. But I loved slam, and it was like a big part of my sort of getting into sports. Actually, so when I went to school for graphic design, one of my senior projects was to redesign Slam Magazine. So like I redesigned Slam Magazine as my senior project, and then about 10 years later, I literally designed Slam Magazine, like the real one, right? So like I was designing issues like the Kobe issue. There's quite a few issues that I did.
That's
and
awesome.
And it was kind of like a rounded out story of something I wanted to do and to kind of get my name in that. I remember even my mom was like super pumped about it because she knew that I loved it back in the day, and that was the way to kind of round out the whole journey, in all honesty. But again, going back to like if you wanted to get into it, I think now there's a lot of things available that weren't available when I was in school. Like I didn't know what graphic design was. I knew I wanted to go to school for something in art. I took a lot of art classes in high school and whatnot, and sometimes I would not go and I would go play ball in the gym, but
Show you another type of art. Let me show you get dunked on.
I was working on my craft, when I went to school, I met a baseball player, and he was down there majoring in graphic design, and what I wanted to do was design shoes.
Right.
But that was a whole nother track, whole nother thing. I didn't know what it was called, right? Like I'm ignorant about what things are. Mm-hmm. He was like, yeah, I'm doing graphic design. I want to do shoes too, but I'm doing graphic design. I was like, all right, well, it's got the word design in it, so I'll do it, right? So I've changed my major, ended up finding out it was logos and magazines and print things and just designing with words and copy. And but now YouTube, there's people with software, like whether you want to learn Photoshop or whatever, like do as much as you can on YouTube, learn about things like typography, which is like the art of designing with words, type. Mm-hmm. You want to learn like, basic layout principles. It's not just software, right? Like I can like, to me, Photoshop is a hammer, right? You got to know how to use the hammer. It's just a tool. Like some people are like, oh, just only design in Photoshop. But I'm like, look, the way software is going and the way like Adobe just came out with terms and conditions, training their AI on people's work, and people got real mad about it. And we're like, we're leaving Adobe. We're going to use other stuff. They end up going back and fixing their language. But you don't know what's going to be around. Like, so that's why you have to get those basics and those fundamentals, kind of like playing a sport, right? Like you got to understand like layout, typography, color theory, all these types of things, so that like when a new tool comes out, I mean, over my career, I've seen things come and go. Like Adobe's kind of been there forever, but the last 3 years I've been using a tool called Figma, and I've had to learn it from scratch. And I always tell my kids, like, I'm always learning stuff. Like you got to keep learning forever. It's not something like you don't just end at school and you're done. Like you got to be an indefinite student of whatever it is that you want to do, right? So keep learning, keep pushing, and that's it.
That's right.
Well,
shout out Erin Wendell.
There she is, Erin.
Who is a marketing director at L8 for many years.
Yeah.
every day we drinking them.
This is why I can't dunk anymore.
That's probably why my L5. No.
Look,
LA's a great company.
This is why I can't go on a diet. I know you have a diet L8, but this one's the best.
Right. Great tasting drink.
Man, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Man, it's a real look into the backside of sports, and a lot of people don't understand what's going on back there, don't even care, or don't even realize that there is something going on, right? But I think it's awesome what you do, and we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate it. It's not simple, clip art, that you get out of a Word document. It takes a lot of time and obviously a lot of effort. But what I really learned, man, was a lot of research that goes involved in putting the best product out there.
Yep, for sure. Appreciate you guys having me on. like I said earlier, I'm very impressed with what you guys are doing. The voice inflections to the whole studio, it's crazy. Yeah, man, keep it up.
All right, man, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, everybody, for watching our episode. And remember, whatever it is you're doing,
Be out there winning.